My name is Arvo Ott. I'm director of e-Governance Academy, and e-Governance Academy is a non-government, non-profit foundation focusing on electronic government trainings and advice. And I was working 12 years in government, starting from very beginning of e-government of Estonia. So my plan is just to give short overview of some of the important aspects of e-government in Estonia, and also focusing on some of the important tasks and results of our work in electronic government, and also some international experience what we got from last 10 years in e-Governance Academy. Estonia is considered to be one of the pioneers in electronic government, and today we know that we have a lot of people who are using electronic services, both from government sector but also private sector. And a few examples, today 99% of all the transactions in electronic banking are made by electronic means. It means that people are trusting banking and electronic banking. It's the same with electronic government, where most of tax declarations, and last year it was somewhere 98% of all the tax declarations have been declared electronically. So it means that people are trusting electronic services and also trusting electronic government in Estonia. So it's always question what is behind and what was the main enablers for this development. And I would just have few examples from electronic government, and then we have time for small discussions about main enablers and main frameworks which are giving the basis of electronic government in Estonia. So, and also quite many people know that Estonia was one of the pioneers in 2000, where cabinet moved to electronic and paperless cabinet, and it is showing very well this political will which is behind those fast developments of electronic government. And just when I'm talking about e-governance, we are just also can explain it from two sides. One is electronic services, which are more focused on services for citizens and services for businesses, and from electronic democracy, which is more focused on communication of citizens and governments. And both we have interesting examples from Estonia, and from my own experience starting from 1993, most complicated issues have been not directly related to the technology, but much more related to the organizational and legislative issues. So a few examples from electronic government side, and also then a few examples about electronic democracy. So just one interesting example we are often showing is that how to integrate different databases into the framework which enables to give electronic services. And one example from Estonia might be the 2004 year where we started to offer parental benefit service for citizens. And shortly to say, it's connecting 5 different government institutions, reading different information from different databases and offering this service for young families who are just getting some support and financing from government. And this time it was like a good exercise also to show that how really government institutions can communicate and cooperate with each other. And today we are just calling the framework in Estonia X-Road, which is widely enabling different electronic service development and cooperation. But here is one interesting topic as well. It's like how fast people start to accept those different types of electronic services. And example from electronic tax declarations from Estonia, where first electronic tax declarations have been just reported in 2000, and then it took more like 5 or 6 years where people are widely already using tax declarations electronic format. So it means that as soon electronic services are available, it doesn't mean everybody start to use those services immediately. The same example can be just drawn from electronic participation, where a lot of people know that in Estonia we are implementing electronic voting or internet voting, which means that we are using digital ID cards for taking part from elections, but also signing their will or signing their decision of internet voting. And this project started already in 2011, but then again it took 4 or 5 years when people started to widely use those things. So the message here is that we can calculate quite many electronic services in government, but it's not so often people are using those. And it's the same with the private sector, where internet banking started in Estonia already late 90s, but today, of course, everybody is using internet banking, but it took also several years when people started to trust those things. So here one important message is that trust building takes time, but for electronic services, you need to build some frameworks around just to enable those services. And of course, one more or less academic view of that is that if we are talking about electronic services, we have to talk about organization, we have to talk about legislation, we have to talk about financing, and we have to talk about technical architecture. And when we are talking about electronic government, quite often people think more or less about technology, but this seems to be, for me at least, and also different examples we see from different parts of the world, that this technology is not the most complicated thing. So everywhere our academy is working, we see that main issues and problems are in organization. And organization, I mean, of coordination, and organization also for implementation of shared services and integrated platforms. So I would like to emphasize here mainly that those countries who have been made like a very fine coordination mechanism and found out who is implementing different cross-government frameworks, those countries are developing much faster than those countries who are not deciding who is in charge of central coordination, who is in charge of implementation. So my message here is that when we are just talking about electronic government, we have to think not only about technology, but we have to think also about organization, legal framework, and fiscal framework. And in Estonia, organizational development was starting in 1993. First decisions and cooperation frameworks were starting in 1994, 1995. Basic legislation have been built before 2000, and maybe in 2001 some final basic pillar for legislation have been introduced. Also there have been from very beginning also commitments and agreements about financing of those different IT systems, and of course architecture of electronic government has been in place already more than 10 years now. And this was my first and very short message about electronic government system. Thank you.